The transport ship hummed through deep space, carrying its usual cargo of supplies and personnel. To the outer colonies, when something appeared on the sensors that should not have been their commander, Lisa Morgan sat in the bridge, watching the empty void when her second officer called out that an unidentified vessel was approaching fast from the asteroid belt. The ship was unlike anything in their database, with smooth organic curves that seemed to shift in the starlight and energy readings that made no sense according to human physics. Lisa ordered defensive positions, but before weapons could charge, the alien vessel simply stopped alongside them and transmitted a series of mathematical sequences that their computer recognized as a request for peaceful contact. Against the protests of her security chief, Lisa decided to allow a small delegation to board after scans showed no weapons or hostile intent from the mysterious craft. What came through the airlock changed everything. Humans thought they knew about the galaxy. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that shimmered between deep violet and silver, depending on how the light hit her, and eyes that held galaxies within their depths. Her form was humanoid enough to be familiar, but alien enough to be mesmerizing, with elongated limbs that moved with impossible grace and features that seemed to shift subtly, as if her face was adapting to whoever looked at her. The translator device she wore began speaking in perfect English, introducing herself as Kayla, an explorer from a civilization that had been watching humanity for generations. Lisa tried to maintain her professional composure, but found herself staring at this being who represented everything humans had dreamed of finding in the stars and feared they never would. Kayla explained that her people, the Virani, had seeded thousands of worlds with the potential for intelligent life billions of years ago, and now traveled the galaxy checking on their children, as they called the younger species. Humans had caught their attention not because of technology or military might, but because of something the Virani had rarely seen in their long existence: hope. While most species expanded through conquest or careful calculation, humans rushed into the unknown with reckless optimism, building homes on hostile worlds and dreaming of futures they had no guarantee of seeing. Kayla had volunteered to make first contact because she was fascinated by this strange quality and wanted to understand what drove a species to sing songs about stars they could not reach and tell stories about futures that might never come. Lisa found herself volunteering to be Kayla's guide to humanity, much to the concern of her crew, who worried about security protocols and proper channels, but something in Kayla's presence made such concerns feel small and insignificant, like worrying about rain when standing before an ocean. They started in the ship's observation deck, where Lisa showed Kayla how human children drew pictures of space before they could even read, and how old Earth's songs about exploration were still sung on colony worlds light years away. Kayla listened with an intensity that was almost overwhelming, asking questions that cut to the heart of what it meant to be human in ways that made Lisa reconsider things she had taken for granted her entire life. Why did humans name their ships after concepts like hope and valor instead of logical designations? Why did they carry books and music and art to new worlds when cargo space was precious? Why did they build gardens on space stations and paint murals and corridors that no one important would ever see? Lisa tried to explain, but found herself struggling, because these things had always just been what humans did without needing reason. Kayla seemed to understand something in Lisa's frustration and shared that her own people had long ago optimized themselves into near perfection. They conquered disease and death, expanded across galaxies, and accumulated knowledge beyond measure. But somewhere in that journey, they had lost something vital, that spark of irrational joy that made existence more than just continued survival. They could appreciate beauty but not create it anymore. They could understand love but not feel its wild irrationality. They could calculate the odds of success but not attempt impossible dreams. Virani had become observers of life rather than participants in it, and Kayla had come to humans seeking to remember what her people had forgotten. Lisa took Kayla through the ship, showing her the crew quarters where people kept photos of families they might not see for years, and the rec room where off-duty personnel gathered to play games and share stories. In the medical bay, Kayla watched as the doctor treated a worker who had injured himself trying to fix a malfunctioning recycler instead of waiting for proper maintenance because he wanted to help his crew. Medicine. The engine room, she observed engineers who spoke to their machines like beloved pets, coaxing and encouraging them through difficult operations everywhere. She looked, Kayla saw humans pouring emotion and personality into the cold machinery of space. Travel transforming sterile corridors into homes and dangerous missions into adventures. Varani had perfect ships that never malfunctioned, and immortal crews that never made mistakes. But no one sang while they worked or laughed when something went wrong or stayed up late telling stories to ease the loneliness of the void after 3 days of observation, Kayla asked Lisa a question that had been building in her mind. What did humans do when they knew they were going to fail, when all logic said their dreams were impossible and their hopes were foolish? Lisa thought for a long moment before answering that humans usually tried anyway. Built ships that would take generations to reach their destinations. They sent messages to stars that might be dead before the signals arrived. They fell in love knowing it would hurt when they lost each other. Created art that might be forgotten and fought for causes that might be lost and planted. Trees whose shade they would never enjoy because the trying itself mattered more than the winning. Kayla was silent for so long that Lisa worried she had said something wrong, but when the alien finally spoke, her voice held something it had not before, a tremor of emotion that the translator could barely convey. She said that the Varani had forgotten how to fail. They had optimized failure out of their existence along with risk and chance and all the wild uncertainty that made life unpredictable. They had won the game of survival so completely that they no longer remembered why they had wanted to win in the first place. Skella asked if she could stay with Lisa's ship for its journey to the colony world to observe humans in their natural state. Lisa agreed, knowing it would cause complications with command, but unable to refuse the request from someone who had traveled so far seeking something. Humans gave away free lead during the long journey. Kayla became part of the crew, learning to eat human food and laugh at human jokes and understand the thousand small ways that people connected with each other. She learned to play cards badly and to appreciate music she could not fully hear, and to understand why humans needed to touch each other to confirm they were not alone. Lisa found herself spending hours with Kayla discussing everything from philosophy to the best way to make coffee in zero gravity. The alien was brilliant beyond measure, but approached every new human custom with the wonder of a child discovering the world. She cried for the first time in centuries when Lisa showed her an old film about a dog waiting for an owner who would never return. She laughed until she could not breathe when a crew member pranked another with a carefully orchestrated series of harmless mishaps. She felt anger when she learned about human wars and injustice and all the ways people hurt each other, and through it all she kept asking, why did humans keep trying when they failed so often? Why did they keep loving when they lost so much? Why did they keep dreaming when reality so rarely matched their hopes? Lisa did not have good answers to these questions. Because humans did not do these things for good reasons. They did them because the alternative was to stop living even while their bodies continued to function. They did them because a universe without hope was not worth surviving in, even if survival was guaranteed. They did them because the struggle itself gave meaning to existence in ways that easy victory never could. They approached the colony world. Kayla asked one final question. What would Lisa do if she knew humanity would ultimately fail, that all their dreams and hopes and struggles would end in darkness? Lisa thought about her daughter growing up on Earth, in the garden she had planted, knowing she might not return to see it bloom, and all the small brave acts that made up a human life. She told Kayla that she would do exactly what she was doing now, flying through the void toward an uncertain future, singing old songs and telling new stories, and planting seeds in soil that might never yield a harvest, because the meaning was not in the destination, but in the journey itself, not in the winning, but in the trying, not in the eternal, but in the ephemeral beauty of the moment. Kayla understood then what she had come seeking. Varani had transcended death, but humans had transcended the need for immortality, had found meaning in their limitations and beauty in their brevity and strength in their fragility. When they reached the colony, Kayla prepared to return to her ship, but before she left, she did something unprecedented for her species. She opened the door to her vessel and invited Lisa inside, showing her wonders that human science could not yet explain: cities that grew like gardens and ships that sang through dimensions humans had not discovered.